Wondering what gear I take on the road for a concert tour? I'm going to show you everything I got on today's episode of
Ask David Bergman.
Hey there everybody, welcome back. Here I am, as always, answering your photography questions right here on Adorama TV. If you've got a photo question, you certainly know what to do by now. You just go to askdavidbergman.com, submit that form on the site, and I just might pick your question and answer right here on a future show. Today's question was sent in from Kevin M, and he wants to know, hey David, I'm a big fan of your work and have seen you working at a Luke Combs concert. I know you carry a lot of gear and I'm curious what your kit looks like these days. What do you take on the road for a concert tour? Well, thanks Kevin, I certainly do appreciate it. It's awful nice of you to say, and thanks for sending in that question. I do get this a lot. People want to know what I'm shooting with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all of the gear that I'm traveling with. As you're watching this, I am currently in New Zealand or Australia. Actually, I'm in Australia at this point by the time this video comes out. Right now, I'm still in my studio in New York City and packing for the trip. So it's a good opportunity to go through all the gear and show you what I bring when I'm out shooting on a tour. Now, I know there's a lot of high-end gear and not everybody's going to have access to this kind of stuff. So after I talk about what I'm using, I'll talk about some other alternatives. If you want to spend a little less money, you're just starting out and you want to just get a couple of things, that's totally cool, totally understandable. But people sometimes like to see what I'm using, so I do appreciate that question, Kevin. So let's start with bodies. I travel with 3 camera bodies. My primary bodies are these 2 R1s, the Canon. Of course, I'm a Canon shooter. I'm an explorer of light with Canon, so that's all I shoot. Everything is Canon, Canon, Canon. I love the Canon gear. I love Canon as a company, and so I use all their gear. This is the R1. It's the flagship body. I have 2 of them. Fortunate to have 2 of these cameras right here. And by the way, you may have noticed I have a little key ring on here. I'll explain why that is a little bit later. But these are what I call my handheld cameras. So during the show, when I'm walking around, I'm shooting at the stage, or I'm out in the arena or the stadium, wherever we are, and I'm walking around, I have 2 cameras hanging on my side. It's these 2 bodies with lenses on them. So I like to have the same 2 camera models on both sides because I'm a creature of habit. I have muscle memory when I shoot. I like to work fast and efficiently. And so by having the same bodies, I don't have to think about where the buttons are or anything. I just know where they are. My fingers know at this point. I can just pick it up and start shooting. So if I have like an R5 and an R1, that would drive me crazy to have that. So I have to have the 2 same bodies. So in this case, I was using R3s up until recently. Now I'm fortunate to have a couple of R1s, so I'm using those. Those are my handhelds. I'll get to lenses in a minute. My third body is the R5 Mark II. I use this exclusively as a remote camera. So I put this camera on stage. It stays there. It's mounted on stage during the show. And then I can trigger it from the audience whenever I want. And I can get that nice shot from behind Luke Combs looking out at the stadium. We're playing all stadiums now. So that's really a gorgeous picture. It's an angle that most people don't see. I'm allowed to go on the stage. I'm the band's tour photographer. So I am allowed to do that, but I'm not there all night long. I'll go up, I'll pick my moments, I'll get a shot, and then I'll get out of there. So I'm not a distraction for the artist or the crowd. So this camera can stay up there all night. People never see it. Nobody cares that it's up there. And I can trigger it remotely and make those gorgeous photos. I love using the R5 for that because it's 45 megapixels. A remote shot is a bit of a, you never know exactly where the action's gonna be. So having all those megapixels and being able to crop is really a good thing. It's the R5. By the way, anything I mentioned like that, like talking about remote cameras, I've done videos on almost all of this stuff. So I've done one about remote cameras. I've done one on why you should use the pro gear versus the more prosumer gear, what you get out of this stuff. But I'll talk more about that as we go. Then we'll get into lenses. You may notice I have 5 lenses here and only 3 bodies. Why is that? Well, my 2 handheld lenses, the one on those 2 R1s, are my go-to, here we go. My go-to wide angle is the 24-105 f4. Love this lens. It's a great focal length range, 24-105. I can get away with shooting f4 no problem because in the old days, you had to shoot 2.8 at everything because the lights were dim and the cameras couldn't shoot really high ISOs. These R1s, they laugh at 6400 ISO. I can shoot 6400 all day long. You'll never know the difference from 800. I've shot 8,000, 10,000, 12.5. It doesn't really matter. You can go as high as you want, 12.8, excuse me. So shooting f4 is no problem. And I like having that extra focal length. Now, Canon does make a 24 to 105 2.8, which is a gorgeous lens. I have it. It's back there in my cabinet over there. But I'm not traveling with it on this tour because it's just simply doesn't fit in my bag. I've got all this stuff crammed in there. I wish I could bring it. I love shooting with it so much, but it just doesn't make it. So I can shoot f4 no problem all day long. And then my long lens, my telephoto, is this right here, this baby, the 100 to 500. It's a 4.5 to 7.1 variable aperture lens. I did just do a video on variable aperture lenses, so you can see how I'm using this and how I'm dealing with the changing aperture. There's a little secret setting in the Canon menus that a lot of people don't know about that makes it a lot easier to shoot variable apertures and have the ISO change automatically as you shoot. But I'll let you look that up. I'll put a link to all of this stuff, of course, in the description. So having, this is about the size of an old school 70-200, like 10, 20 years ago. Having this on my shoulders with a 24 to 105, there's no overlap. There's only 5 millimeters of overlap there. So I've got 24 millimeters all the way to 500 millimeters on my shoulders all night long. And I can pick them up. And by the way, talk about the muscle memory thing. I always have my long lens on my right and my wide angle on my left. That's because when I pick it up, quickly, if they're both on my side, I know which one I'm going to get. I need the long lens. I know it's on this side. I need the wide angle. I just don't want to have to, which one is it? And, I picked up the wrong one. I don't want to waste any time doing that. So those are my two handhelds when I'm shooting the show. Then I have 3 other lenses. One, obviously, is for the remote. This is the 15 to 35, 2.8. Beautiful lens, beautiful wide angle lens, perfect for that remote shot. I'll play around with it. I'll try to put it in different places on the stage. I'll zoom it a little more, 15 to 35, but I preset it before the show and just leave it up there. So I really can't mess with it once it's up there. But this lens and this body I have dedicated for remotes. I like having that dedicated because, for example, this body, I don't have to worry about the settings. I shoot different settings on the remote than I do on my handhelds. The focus modes are different. The customized buttons are different. So this one is set up full-time for remote. I almost always use it with the 15 to 35. Sometimes I'll mess around and change it up a bit, but usually it's got the 15 to 35 on it. I don't have to worry about it. I know it works. Bam. Then 2 other lenses I travel with, or I'm traveling with, at least on this tour. The 10 to 20. This is the f4 10 to 20. Beautiful wide angle lens, super wide. It's rectilinear, which means it's not like a fisheye lens. You can go to 10 millimeters, and if you hold it parallel to the ground, the sides are going to be straight, which is kind of amazing. So I will use this during the show. I'm fortunate that I have a desk in the production office because I work for the tour, so I have a desk there. I can leave my gear there, and during the show, I'll run in there, I'll leave my 24 to 105, and I'll put on the 10 to 20. And then I'll go all the way up to the upper deck, the top of the stadium, way in the back, and I'll make beautiful big wide shots showing the entire place, 50, 60, 70, 80,000 people. With this lens, just looks amazing. So, and then on the way back down, I'll go back into production and swap the lens back. I don't use this at the stage. It's a little too wide, I think, for that. Or at a stadium, you're never like super close. You might want to use this if you're doing like punk bands in a club or something and you're right up close. I know people like that fisheye look. I'm not a personal fan of fisheye. You can do it once in a very long while, I think, but the 10 to 20 is not going to give you that fisheye look. So beautiful lens for that purpose. That's really the only reason I carry it. And then the last lens I have with me, I always leave one slot in my bag open for just a fun lens. Whatever it is. I'm fortunate to have a lot of gear, so every time I come home and I switch out my gear, I can switch out that 5th lens and just do something fun. I might bring a tilt shift. I might bring, all kinds of, plastic, cheap lens, whatever. Just whatever I want to play with. On this run, I am using the 51.2. Man, if you ever use this lens, you can never go back. Shooting at 1.2 at a concert is unlike anything I've ever experienced until I did it. The bokeh, the background blur is just gorgeous. It's almost like 3-dimensional. So obviously I'm not going to use this throughout the whole show. Primes are kind of limiting at a concert because you can't really move back and forth that easily. So that's why we generally use zooms for concerts and for sports action. But having this 51.2, again, I'll put it on for just a couple of songs, and it just looks gorgeous when you shoot at 1.2. So I'll drop my ISO way down, go to 1.2, and it's just a game changer. So I those are the 5 lenses I use. A couple other items, everything else that's in my bag, I actually have taken out, and it's all here, so I'm going to go through all of it. I do travel with one flash. This is the Canon Speedlight, the EL5. I don't use this at the show, at the stage, but I will have this on my camera. You never want to use flash at a concert, really. Again, unless maybe at a small club and the band kind of knows you're doing it. But at a stadium, I don't need it. The light is amazing. Our lighting director did an amazing job making the show look great. It's nice and bright. I don't need that. And you don't want to flash in somebody's face all night anyway. But I carry this around for during the show if I'm out in the crowd doing like fan pictures or something like that. We do meet and greets. So occasionally, I use the flash for that. I just go on camera, and what I do for meet and greet is I use this right here. This is the Magmod, which is it? I think it's the Mag Sphere. I can never remember the names of these things, but this is the Sphere, I believe. And this is the Mag Grip. You put this on you attach this to the flash, and then this just magnetically goes to the top. Very strong magnets, by the way. And this goes on top of the camera. Good God, strong magnets. On top of the flash, and this is the best lighting modifier I've ever used for meet and greet. It's very efficient. It pumps a lot of light forward. It's better than just using the on-camera flash on its own, pointed out. So this folds up nice and small, but that's how I use the flash. I only travel with the one EL5, and years ago I used to sometimes travel with 2 if I ever needed to do a quickie portrait of somebody, but it's very rare, and honestly, I'm trying to conserve space, as you can see, for the bodies and lenses. Other things I travel with, this is my strap that I use. This is the Holdfast Gear Moneymaker, which I like that name. This is leather. They do make vegan versions if you want, but this is the leather version, black leather. I wear all black when I shoot, so this blends in perfectly. It's super strong, and of all the double straps I've used, this is the one that feels the best at the end of the night. I don't really have back pain when I'm done. I keep this in its little pouch here. And then the reason I have those little key rings on my R1s is because this thing, you bolt it down to the bottom with these big sail hooks here, which I've never had one break, knock on wood. But if it does, there's also a little safety. So I attach this to those little key rings, and I don't know how long this would hold, but I would definitely feel it if it popped off this big hook. And so that would allow me to catch it before it hits the ground. So safety is a very smart idea for these straps when you're carrying all this heavy, expensive equipment. So that's the strap. That's the Magmod. In this little bag here, I think this was a freebie bag from one of the airlines for flying international or something. This is all my remote Pocket Wizard stuff. So I've got a couple of Pocket Wizards in here, all the cables, all the cords, everything I need. Packs up nice and tight here in this little pouch. By the way, as for the remote, that reminds me, I do have one other case that has some gear in it, a Pelican case, relatively small one. I am fortunate enough that the tour allows me to ship that with the tour gear. So it goes with the drums and the lighting and the sound and all of that stuff. So that case just gets delivered to the production office when we get to a venue, which is really nice. When I show up, it's already there. And that stuff are things that I don't need at home. It's not lenses and cameras. It's not things I'm gonna need away from the show. It's battery chargers, and it's, what else is in there? Remote gear. I have the Platypod floor plate and a ball head. So if I wanna use that for a remote, just put it down on the ground like a little tripod. And I also have a Manfrotto super clamp and magic arm, which is what I'm using most of the time for my remote. I can clamp that onto something on the stage and then angle the camera however I want. That travels with the tour. I have a drone in there, a DJI drone. Just a few things that I don't have to worry about. I know that they're gonna be there. They just crossed the Pacific Ocean on a boat with all of our gear for like a month. And now they're in, actually New Zealand as I'm recording this, but we'll be in Australia by the time you're watching this. So that's some of that gear. I'm fortunate to have that. The other little items I have, this is the plate for if I want to use the floor plate with the ball head, this is the plate for under the camera. Usually I have this on here under the R5 Mark II. I took it off just to show you. I also have in my bag the Tether Tools tether block, which is a different kind of plate that allows for you to, if you're shooting tethered, you can put the cable in there and it locks it into place. I almost never shoot tethered, but sometimes I'll find myself at like a trade show or something and they want me to shoot tethered. And so I will pop this on there if they don't already have one. So I have this in my bag permanently and I don't have to worry about it. Not necessarily a tour item, but it's already always there. This little thing, I often forget I have this. This is the little Canon transmitter. It's the ST-E10. It doesn't have a battery of its own. When you put it on the hot shoe, it charges. It powers up, which is really nice. This allows me to shoot this wirelessly. If I want to go off camera with this for a quickie portrait or something like that, I at least can do that very easily. This is always in my bag. Really nice thing to have. The last couple items here are, I have 2 Think Tank wallets. This one holds extra cards. I use ProGrade exclusively. Their cards and readers are the fastest I've ever used. These are CF Express. They're built really well. I've never had a problem. Again, knock on wood. I really like the company. I really like the cards. Those readers are Thunderbolt 4, the ones I'm using now. They're so fast. They ingest one of these things in no time. I've got 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte cards, 512 gig as well. Just a couple of backups just in case. I never need them. And then the other wallet actually has colored gels on them for my flash. So if I want to get some weird effect out of there, again, it's something that travels in my bag all the time that I kind of forget about until I need it. Last couple items, little roll of gaff tape that's almost empty, but little tiny mini gaffer's tape. You never know when you need that. I have the Canon charger. This looks like the charger, and it is for the R5 battery, R5 and R5 Mark II battery. But here's what I've discovered. I'm going to charge all my stuff when I get to the venue because my battery chargers are there. And of course, I pre-charge them before I go. You always want to make sure you have charged batteries before you leave. But if something happened and those battery chargers didn't show up, or I shot something on a day off and I wanted to recharge my cameras, everything here can be charged by USB, which is wonderful. All 3 of these bodies can be charged by USB. That's amazing. I can plug them in the room just using the wall charger. I actually use the computer wall charger because it's got a lot of power. It works fine. So I can recharge these batteries. The only thing I cannot recharge in the hotel room is the flash. The EL5 uses a similar battery to the R5 Mark II. It uses the same charger, which is great. So I have one of these in my camera bag that is just an emergency in case my flash. You don't want to have a dead flash on a day off when you really need it. So I travel with that. And then the last piece here, this is my little secret weapon. It's not really photo related, although it kind of is. These are my FIR audio, F-I-R audio in-ear monitors. These are the same ones that the band uses. I've always called this my little secret weapon because during the show, I have a wireless pack that the tour provides me that I wear on my back pocket. And what that allows me to do is I can hear the show and I hear everything that the band hears. So not only if I'm in the upper deck or out in the crowd, I can hear the actual show, which is kind of nice. I can also turn the volume down, so it's good hearing protection. These things are molded to my ears, so it blocks out almost everything when I'm in the crowd. But I can hear the show, but also I can hear the band members talking to each other. So I know everything that's going on stage, good, bad, or ugly. I know what's going on, and as a photographer, that is hugely important to be able to pay attention to what's happening, even when I'm out doing something else. I'm swapping lenses backstage. I can still hear usually what's going on. So that's all the gear I have. Now, there's one more thing. Forgot this little item. This is the R50, the Canon EOS R50. This is and I've got the RF 16 2.8, 16 millimeter 2.8 lens on here. This is my little walk around kit. This stays in my backpack separate from my camera bag because if I'm, my camera bag's in the hotel room or so even if I'm on the plane and it's down at the back somewhere and I have my backpack with me, this I always have. When I started using this, it's kind of just for fun. It's my walk around camera. I've used it at sound check. The autofocus is surprisingly good. It's really good autofocus. It's not quite the R1, but it did a great job. The files look great. You couldn't tell the difference, at least on social media. You couldn't tell the difference between this file and those. So just for a nice little, this basically fits in my pocket. I don't even have a strap on it. I just kind of walk around. It's really nice to have. Very simple, very light. I like having that with me. So that's all the gear here. I mentioned that 24 to 105 2.8. Canon also has a 7200 2.8, a new one, which is really nice. The old RF 7200 is still an amazing lens. It's beautiful, it's sharp, but the new one has a couple of things going for it that really put it ahead for me. First of all, you can get it in black, which is nice because when I shoot concerts, I wear all black. I want to blend in. I try to shoot as many black lenses as I can. So they offer it in black and white, which is really nice. Also, the throw to go from 7200 is a lot shorter. You can just get there a lot faster. You don't have to do the zoom for too far. And you can put a teleconverter on it, which is really amazing because when I'm shooting, not at a stadium, but if I'm shooting an arena concert, so it's a smaller venue, only in an arena with 15 or 20,000 people, when I'm shooting something like that, then I will use maybe the 24 to 105 f4 and then the new 7200. It's a 2.8, but with a teleconverter, the 1.4 teleconverter, it becomes an f4 and has the same field of view as a 98 to 280. So that 24 to 105, the combination 24 to 105 and 98 to 280 is perfect. All at f4. It's a really nice kit. It pretty much covers you for just about anything. If you're shooting events, weddings, those kinds of things, if you can shoot at f4, which of course, like I said, you really have no problem shooting with these cameras today. So it's really a good option with that new 7200. But I'm not bringing either of those new lenses with me. They just don't fit in the bag. Sorry, I wish I could. I would love to, but I just got to pare down as best I can. So having said all this, we've talked about all this expensive gear. I know this stuff costs a lot. It is top of the line. It's definitely, for a working pro, it's a great way to go. There are less expensive options if you just can't quite go this way yet. With Canon, in general, and this is almost 100% true, with each model number, as the numbers get higher, the cameras get less expensive. So the R1 being the flagship, then it's the R3, the R5 Mark II, the R6 Mark II, R7, R8, R10, R50 right here. There's an R100. The R100 is really an entry-level camera. The R50 is a step above that. But as I was saying, even something like the R50, still really great camera. Excellent autofocus system, has a lot of the more advanced features than you would think a camera like that would have. If you're really shooting professionally and you're shooting something that needs great autofocus speed and in low light conditions, I would say try to stick below the R10 if you can. R8, the R10 and the R7, by the way, are crop sensor bodies, but the R8 is not. If you can get into like an R6 Mark II or an R5, I mean, you're going to be golden, right? Those are pretty high level cameras. But the R7, R8, even R10, amazing, amazing cameras. You certainly can pare down if you need to go that direction until you can build up if you're aiming to get to this point. I have done videos about, what makes an R1 and an R3 in general, the more expensive cameras, what the difference is between those and the more prosumer level cameras, things like build quality and weather sealing, the sensor quality of the faster computers that are in there, faster processors. The autofocus, of course, is going to be top of the line in these. The buffer, you can customize them in ways that you can't with the less expensive cameras. Better viewfinders, longer battery life, all those kinds of things. But that doesn't mean you can't shoot with those cameras. You could still make amazing pictures. I've had so much fun with this R50 and really made some good quality images. Then as far as lenses go, if you can't do the fast aperture zooms, the 2.8 and the f4 zooms, and you need to shoot something with you either need very fast shutter speed, so you have to have a wide aperture, or you're in really low light conditions, you're going to be looking at prime lenses. Prime lenses are a great way to go. There's always trade-offs, right? If you spend less money, there's going to be a trade-off. That's just the way it works. But you still can do amazing things with, for example, the nifty 50, a 50 millimeter 1.8 lens. Canon makes one that's $200. Right? And 1.8, and it's a fast lens. It's going to give you really good quality. They also make this 16 2.8, which I love. Also about $200 or $250, I think. They make a 28 2.8. They make an 85 f2. Now we're getting into about $500, $550 US. But an 85 f2, if you've got to shoot something, like I said, you need fast shutter speeds or you're shooting in very low light, that is a great way to go without spending thousands of dollars on a 2.8 zoom or an f2 zoom. If you want to go zooms, right? Like I said, primes are going to be a little restrictive at a concert. So if you really want to zoom, you're looking at, with a crop sensor body, there's RFS lenses like the 10 to 18 or the 18 to 45. Those are variable aperture, smaller aperture lenses, 4.5 to 6.3, right? But they're about $300. And with these cameras, like I said before, you can really push up the ISO further than we ever could before. So if that's the way you've got to go, I wouldn't be scared to shoot at higher ISOs, to shoot at those smaller apertures, and it's going to give you that zoom range. There's also an RF 24 to 50 that's also a 4.5 to 6.3. There are a bunch of options in that range. And then if this is all really too much for you and you're okay, if you don't need to go latest and greatest, look at the DSLRs. We shot DSLRs for so many years. They're amazing cameras. There's nothing wrong with going back to a non-mirrorless camera if you want to go that route and then work your way up. The 5D Mark IV, you can still find it. I don't know if they still sell it new. I'm not sure. But if you go on Adorama's their used department, I looked earlier today. They have excellent quality versions, used versions, ranked excellent condition for about $1,000, which you couldn't get that camera for that back then. If you're looking at a Mark III, you're going to be looking at less than that, 700 or so. Obviously, depends on condition, but you can still get really good. I'm selling some of my old EF gear, my DSLRs, and my EF lenses as well, man. You can get like a 70-200 2.8, which is a top of the line, beautiful lens that 10 years ago you would have paid a lot more for. You can get one used anywhere from $500 to $1,500, obviously depending on condition. You got to make sure it's good condition. That's why you go to a reputable place like Adorama. Their used department will be straight with you about the condition of these lenses, so you don't have to worry about it. So there's definitely things you can do if you don't want to spend the money for the high-end gear. This is what I use. I'm a working pro. I need to have the top of the line. So, a lot of my friends are shooting the same type of gear, but it can be done for a lot less money. Now, the thing is, anything that's not, as far as traveling, I need to mention how I get all this in my bag. This is the bag I travel with right here. This is the Think Tank Airport International. I used to use the Airport Security, which is a little bit bigger. It was pushing it a little bit on the planes with the overhead space. It was a little tight. It just drew too much attention. So a bunch of years ago, I switched to the Airport International. It's under the size for all the carry-on requirements, except for the really smallest ones where it just barely fits a purse, right? Other than that, this is going to fit in the overheads as long as they don't weigh it. You're going to be okay. So that is the bag. Believe it or not, this all fits into there somehow. I would check anything in your checked bag that's not super fragile, right? So obviously cameras, lenses, you want to have that stuff with you. But things like tripods and monopods and remote gear, hardware, battery chargers, those kinds of things, that stuff put in your check bag. If you're checking a bag, let all that stuff go under the plane and under the cabin, I should say. And if it gets banged around, it's all right. That's not going to be a problem. This stuff can't get banged around, so you want to do everything you can to carry this on. A couple other little things, little tips. I put labels on the front of all of my lenses and bodies. I haven't done them on these cameras yet because they're brand new, but I will be doing that. And these have my name in small letters, and they have the lens name and the body name on it, so I know what it is. I print these myself. You can buy these from companies. I just got sheets of those labels, a laser printer, and I made my own little design. And the thing is, when these are all in my bag, I can see what lens each one is, and I can pull it out. I got 5 lenses in there, so obviously I know the 100, 500. The rest of them, especially these 3 from the top, they kind of look the same. So when I'm working quickly, I can pull them out. I know exactly which one is which. I also have little tiny labels that I did have printed professionally that are hidden on there underneath or behind the viewfinder, behind the screen, I should say, that just have my name, my phone number, my email address. You want to have that on there somewhere, just for, just makes me feel a little better knowing that's on there, if it helps. before you travel, you want to pre-charge everything. So you want to make sure that all your gear, all your batteries are charged up, which is really nice. Like I said before, everything can be USB charged except that one. So in an emergency, I can definitely charge it at the hotel, but I still want to know that when I land, everything's charged and ready to go. I can start working, I can start shooting immediately without having to worry about, oh, I hope I charge that up, right? A couple other things I do, I have a packing list. I just print up a spreadsheet with everything that's in the bag, with all the serial numbers and all the model numbers and everything. And I print that up, and a copy of that goes in each one of my bags. So I have it, and of course I have it on my phone as well, but just so there's a printed copy if there's any issue with immigration or customs and immigration anywhere, or any kind of a security issue, I've got a printed manifest of what's in that bag, just nice for my own security to know that's there. And then I keep these little locks, these little TSA locks on all my bags. They, it's not that you can't cut through these pretty easily, but I know at least that if, like my backpack, for example, when I'm walking through an airport and I have a backpack on, it's got my computer in it, I know somebody can't just zip it open really easily, right? It is locked up, so they'd have to work a little bit harder to get them off of there. I do travel with, I usually will have a checked bag because I've got clothes and things in there, and then any other miscellaneous items. And then I have a backpack also with my computer, and what else is in there? I've got a little tech bag. I've got the Peak Design tech bag that has all my cords and cables in it, and just random other items, gum and things like that. So that all goes on my back and goes under the seat on the plane. So that's what I use. What do you guys think? I know this is a lot of gear. I'm sure you have questions. Let me know down in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. Do you travel with gear like this? How do you do it? Do you bring a big roller? Do you just use sort of a little bag, little camera bag? Let me know down in the comments, and we'll talk about it. Remember, if you have your own photo questions, make sure you go to askdavidbergman.com. I hope you like these videos. Adorama and I put in a lot of work to make these happen, so I do appreciate you hitting that like button, and of course subscribing to the Adorama YouTube channel. I hope you buy all your gear there. I certainly do. Make sure you click that little bell icon so you'll know when new shows come out from me and all the other photo hosts here on Adorama TV. Thanks so much for joining me, and hope to see you next time right here on Ask David Bergman.